It's her like telekinetic rage that's taking over and doing the sex.
Like, what? This is adult lady work.
Yeah.
What if that was my only problem with this movie? That's not how a virgin has sex. Thumbs down.
Welcome to 1999, the podcast. I'm John Brooks.
I'm Jen Tisdale.
Jen, how are you? It was recently Thanksgiving, as you recall, several days ago. Do you like Thanksgiving? Are you a Thanksgiving fan? Do you like?
I'm gonna state the obvious that the concept of Thanksgiving is not a favorite thing of mine. But if I just think of it as a nice meal,
Nice day.
I think so. But it's just me and my mother, and we've whittled it down to just the two of us now.
Yeah.
We killed everybody in a rage, Carrie 2 style.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yep.
And so for the first year ever, we're going to dinner.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, but then you don't have leftovers, and that's truly all I can think about. I'm like, oh, I keep saying we're not gonna have leftovers, and like this panic.
You can still have leftovers. Just order way more than you need, and then you will have plenty of leftovers.
I'm putting everything in a Tupperware container to start. They're like, do you have a plate? I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So do you have a real life family? You're a real boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also my daughter's birthday
No.
this year. So like every few years, her birthday falls on Thanksgiving. So
But that's kind of neat because then you get this really nice dinner.
Yeah. And also she gets like 3 different birthdays leading up to it, So we had the party this weekend. Her birthday party was going to see the Taylor Swift movie concert thing. So I sat through all 3 hours of that. So that was an experience.
I have a lot of complicated feelings about Taylor Swift that I don't know. Maybe they make sense for this motion picture. Who can say? She's a very powerful lady, just like our gal, not Carrie. in a movie free of Carries. Let's still call it
spoilers. No, but yes, I have to go do all the family things all day.
No, I'm pretty jealous of people who do something really intense. My editor where I work, her family has a theme every year, and it's like it appears to be location based a lot. So this year, I want to say she says it's Italy. So sort of there's like an Italy vibe to the Thanksgiving meal, and like very intense
Italian Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah.
And another friend of mine, Tim, his dad makes this very intense Excel spreadsheet that every year Tim will put on social media, like the intensity of like when everything has to go into the oven or onto the stove or whatever. It's so precise. I envy that. My mom and I are it's just the two. The FCC can ding us for that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just a little lonely, Miss Lonely Hearts over here.
Well, if it makes you feel better, today's movie is
Speaking of a mother and daughter
coming together to celebrate something, and I think it goes well. I don't remember how it ends. All right. Anyway, today's movie finished at number 91 at the domestic box office, just ahead of Go and just behind the Melissa Joan Hart / Zach Grenier vehicle Drive Me Crazy. Get it? Vehicle Drive Me Crazy.
That's true. I love that.
All 3 are teen romps. So basically the same movie 3 times over. Opening at number 2 on March the 12th. Importantly, a month pre-Columbine. We'll talk about that later. And sandwiched between Analyze This at number 1 and Cruel Intentions at number 3, and taking in $7 million before going on to gross $17.8 million during its run on a $21 million budget. So it did in fact lose some money, but didn't lose a ton of money. I guess that's something. Starring Emily Bergel, Jason or Jeremy London, Dylan Bruno, Zachary Ty Bryan, Rachel Blanchard, Amy Irving reprising her role as Sue Snell, American Pie's Mita Suvari, and American Pie's Eddie K. Thomas. Tonight we are discussing what many consider a direct sequel to American Pie, The Rage, Carrie 2.
Oh my God.
Jen, what is The Rage, Carrie 2 about?
Well, I'll tell you what it's not about, Carrie. The Rage?
No,
Carrie?
no.
No.
I really wanted the main character's name to be called named to be Carrie too, and not Rachel.
Maybe it's like just like TOU or some sort of like it's French. She's French.
Carrie Jr.
Carrie as well.
Yeah.
The Rage, Carrie 2, is a semi-spiritual sequel to Carrie, and that a woman is definitely angry at terrible people. In this version, the monstrous toxic masculinity and rape culture with a soundtrack that feels like every rejected band from Woodstock 99, which also plays into this, I might add.
So true.
It
Yes.
focuses,
Ooh.
yep.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts. And also, do you know, we'll get into it, but Zachary Ty Bryant, is that
we're gonna talk about Zachary
okay,
Ty Bryan.
this feels like a foreshadowing. Okay, it focuses on Rachel Lang, as you said, played by Emily Burgle, who, like Carrie, is fatherless and trapped with an unwell mother, played by Succession's own J. Smith Cameron. Unlike her predecessor, Rachel is far more hip to the wily ways of the world, but that doesn't stop her from falling in love with the high school jock, the soulful Jesse Ryan, as you said, is played by one of the London brothers. Who can say?
Jason.
Don't worry, he's not like other boys. And those other boys are having sex with high school girls, then grading them on a point system, which is based on a true story that we will get into. This leads to the suicide of Rachel's best friend, which reignites her long hidden telekinetic powers, which reach a fever pitch at a deeply unrealistic party. Its only saving grace is the incredible kills and the heavy-handed Romeo and Juliet style death of Rachel. This is Carrie 2?
The Rage.
The Rage. I know,
Carrie
I keep forgetting
2.
the Rage part. I'm sorry. There was certainly a lot of rage against a lot of machines.
That CD player was really had it coming.
Oh my God.
The Rage, Carrie 2, began its life sometime in the mid-90s as The Curse, not Carrie anything. A fully original movie, totally unconnected to the Carrie franchise. Carrie-verse?
There is a reboot. There is a CCU.
There is a reboot. There's an original. There's a sequel. So there's a Carrie franchise. And there's also a television movie that apparently is pretty good. So there's 2 remakes. Yeah. Anyway, until some genius noticed, hey, isn't this basically Carrie? With that, an intern was dispatched to see what Amy Irving was up to lately, and The Rage Carrie 2 was born. Burgle had already signed on to play the lead role in The Curse, on which production was set to begin in 1996, but due to the film's sudden Carrification, it didn't start filming until 2 years later. And of course, any later than that, and it would not have been released at all because it would have been past Columbine, and you would not have released this movie after April the 20th of 1999. The film's plot was inspired by the story of the Spur Posse, a thing that we will talk about a little bit later on. So hold that thought. But Jen and I, who are both people in the 1990s and teenagers who went to health class, know all about the Spur Posse. So we'll get to that. The movie was written by Raphael Moreau, a fairly obscure screenwriter whose only other credits are 11 episodes of the X-Files spin-off The Lone Gunman, and more importantly, the 1996 cult classic Hackers.
I love that movie so much.
Of course you do. We all do. It was directed by Katt Shea, who stepped in when School Ties director Robert Mandel stepped away over creative differences, forcing several reshoots.
Smart decision.
Shea was best known for directing the 1992 psychosexual thriller Poison Ivy, starring Drew Barrymore, Cheryl Ladd, Tom Skerritt, Sarah Gilbert, and Leonardo DiCaprio. It was Shea who was responsible for the use of scenes from the original Carrie edited throughout the film when she showed that version with those scenes to Carrie Prime, Sissy Spacek herself, who gave Shea the green light to use her likeness. The Rage was neither a critical nor commercial success, but full disclosure, it absolutely rules, so everyone got this one wrong.
Wow, we are in such disagreement other than a lady destroying bad people, which I always love.
I love this movie so much.
Really struggled with this one.
It has a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 33% audience score and a 42 Metacritic rating with a 4.0 audience score. Among the more savage reviews, Desson Thompson in the Washington Post, who wrote, quote, "The only reason to watch this, the grisly reward Irving receives for being in this picture." More lukewarm was someone who does not like Amy Irving or Sue Snell.
Or Sue Snell, which, let's face it, she did Anyway, go ahead.
She sucks. More lukewarm was Mary Elizabeth Williams in Salon, whose review concludes, quote, "It's true that one doesn't approach the follow-up to a 2-decade-old gore fest expecting to be dazzled. The surprise of the movie is that it actually does have a talented director and star. It doesn't begin to make up for the low quality of the story or the numerous other unfortunate elements, but it does suggest little flashes of something that with more thought might actually have been somewhat interesting. The successor to Carrie may have been called The Rage, but it's mostly just an exercise in mild frustration over what might have been." But critics almost universally singled out Bergel's performance, for which she was nominated for a Saturn Award, as a genuine highlight. And the film received genuinely positive reviews from Owen Gleiberman in the Entertainment Weekly, Mark LaSalle in the San Francisco Chronicle, and Amy Taubin in the Village Voice, whose Metacritic score is a 90, and who concluded, quote, "Fathers, father surrogates, and boys who unquestioningly emulate their dads are the collective villain of The Rage. Shea tears through the macho facade of jock culture to show the squirmy castration anxiety underneath. Bend over and pull down your pants," yells the coach at a player who has been slacking off.
The craziest scene. Somehow that's the craziest scene in this movie. Somehow.
I thought I'd find a tampon string hanging from your ass.
No, why would you?
It's a neatly feminist twist on the shower scene in Carrie, and there are about a half dozen other twists that are just as sharp. Shea gets into trouble, however, when she uses the bits of the original Carrie as flashbacks. The two films don't seem to take place in the same world, let alone the same small town. The film nearly goes down the tubes in the scenes where Amy Irving recapitulates her role as Sue Snell, one of the survivors of Carrie White's senior prom shenanigans. I never could stand Sue Snell, and given the fate assigned her here, I suspect Shea felt likewise. Yeah. Inside The Rage Carrie 2, a smart, realist drama is taking form. If Shea could free herself from the genre trap, she might make some great films in the future. Still, you take what you can get, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one winds up on my top 10 list for 99.
Whoa. Where's that list?
I don't know, but I found that review really interesting. Anyways,
as with all things, I'm really going to have a problem taking the 1999 of it out, because I guess I can only see it through my 2023 eyes, and it was so 1999.
Yeah.
You texted me and you thought that Stigmata was very 1999, I think. Yeah. Or did you text me about Carrie too?
I said, no, we found a movie that is more 1999 than Stigmata is.
This one is even down to the tattoo.
Oh no, this is by far the 1999est movie ever made. It is it's dripping.
It's pretty aggressive, but it's also probably not aggressive. It's just 1999. But now looking back, it feels like a bunch of tropes and but that really was what it was like. I was living in LA, so I don't know what.
Yeah. No, it's we'll talk more about this, but like, it is also a very specifically pre-Columbine, again, 1999 movie.
You could never.
Nope. So Jen, who is joining us to talk about The Rage Carrie 2 today?
This is a very, very good guest. He's a friend, which I think should probably be included somewhere in this bio. And yet I'm not seeing friend of Jen Tisdale anywhere in this bio. I assume moving forward, that will be part of his bio. Today, we are speaking with Paul Haynes. He is a writer, best known for his work with true crime writer Michelle McNamara on her best-selling book, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and for having appeared in and served as co-executive producer on the eponymous HBO docuseries. He loves 90s cinema and horror movies and would agree that 1999 was perhaps the greatest single year in film history.
Smart guy.
Told you.
Guy.
That's right.
Well, Paul, welcome to our little shindig here.
Ooh.
Thank you for watching this movie on fairly short notice, so that we can.
Yeah, no problem. It's my first time watching it.
Oh, so you're a brand new rager. You're new to the rage.
Yeah. I see. Jen is not. She's not on the rage train.
She's not on the rage train.
I'm so sorry. I should like it. I know I should. Everything in my body should love it when a woman kills a bunch of men. And yet, here I am.
You're skipping to the end.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've Paul, you have 1 day's experience with The Rage.
I do.
Jen,
Less than.
you have
So
about a
less than
week.
24 hours.
Yeah,
That's not long. Yeah.
No, I have. You're going to be the freshest. You might be reminding us about things because, as you know, my memory is garbage.
Well, I first saw it 24 years ago,
Oh my
and
God.
24 and like a half years
You
ago.
saw that in theaters. Now,
I
Paul,
did. I did.
Paul had it at an opportunity not too long ago to see this motion picture in theaters.
I did.
You not?
Yeah, I think it screened at the New Beverly here in Los Angeles, and I planned to go, and something else came up, unfortunately, so had to watch it at home.
Was that for like a Carrie film festival, or just this one movie?
Yeah, it's this and the Sex and the City movies. So.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna New Beverly. They screen repertory year round. They change. They do double features typically. Every 2 days they change the double feature, and it was paired with Pet Sematary 2.
Oh,
okay.
So the theme was shitty Stephen King sequels.
Directed by women.
Directed by women.
Oh no!
It's a micro theme.
I guess that it's right. Everyone was right when they were saying about lady directors. We can't be trusted. Don't give us any source material. We'll mess it up. John, as a reminder, and I forbid and forbade Paul from doing any research on this movie. Though he would come prepared. Aside from watching it, he would come prepared. So you should let him know.
Yeah. Well, Paul, do you know the genesis of this movie?
Jen filled me on yesterday.
Damn it, I did.
Yeah. But for the sake of your listeners and viewers, are you have viewers?
Oh no, we don't let people see us.
Okay,
we're
that's
old.
good.
Yeah,
that's really
we are unwell physically.
That would not be nice.
Lighting set up and everything, and now I can just
look at you.
Honey, you look great. Yeah,
just
throw it out.
Video of you, and then put that on with just our voices.
I know. You look great, and I couldn't be shrouded in more darkness. I don't know what's happening.
Paul's the telegenic one.
So, for the benefit of your listeners, Jen, why don't you fill me in on?
It was originally called The Curse, correct? And it was not a Carrie sequel at all. Nothing. Had nothing to do whatsoever with the original. And then what happened? Somebody said, hey, doesn't this seem a little bit like Carrie? And everyone just went, sure. And they just kind of retconned.
Now it's a sequel.
Now it's a sequel. And they inexplicably and confusingly got permission from Sissy Spacek. Like, is she the one who allows people to use Phil? She's like, yes, I own the rights to this motion picture. You may use me in these flashbacks, and please make sure it's the most traumatizing parts of the film. I want the tampons being thrown at me. I want the scene where I'm covered in blood, not where I'm spinning in my prom dress, dancing with the greatest American hero or whatever. Not at all. No, just the sad parts.
So was the film originally about a girl with telekinetic powers?
Yeah. Or something. It's not
that Carrie is the only other horror film about a girl with telekinetic powers. It's Friday the 13th Part 7. Ruby, which Ruby was a direct rip-off of Carrie.
All she did was glare a lot. No, that was what's the actual fire? There's pyrokinesis. Pyrokinesis.
Whatever. Fire starter.
All that woman did from Friday the 13th was glare a lot. I need more energy than that from my telekinesis queens. I need to feel the energy. So basically they just decided, I don't know why they decided it's not was it an anniversary at all? When did, Paul, you'll know this. When did the original come out? Was it 76, 77? Don't you dare. I can do that.
I think 76.
Yeah, so it's not like they were it's the 25th anniversary. There's no reason. The
23rd anniversary of Carrie.
A classic.
Well, it was the 20th once they were beginning to, they were going to film it in 96, right? So it was and then they had to change everything. So it would have been the 20th anniversary of Carrie. But no, I think it was just sort of a maneuver of, we're going to make this movie, and then someone's like, this is basically just Carrie, and so it's rather than it being a ripoff and getting sued, it's now it's a sequel, which is a great trick to pull, to just make it into a sequel.
Yeah.
If you accidentally rip out
And
somebody's
try to
foot.
ride the wave of all those teen kids from the 90s who have who have nostalgic memories of 1970s.
As I said, it's
right?
also a direct American Pie sequel, so it is to be understood as American Pie Part 2.
But then, and then the original, I guess, when it was being kicked around, it was as I was like, as I can't stop talking about the Spur Posse, the Spur Posse, the Spur Posse. It's
Yes.
these. Now, this is Paul. You and I both have complicated relationships with the true crime genre. So both of us are allowed to roll our eyes at the mere mention of it, and our involvement with it at any time. We get a pass. But yeah, this is another reason why it's great that you're doing this, is because you've existed in true crime. I've existed in true crime, and this movie vaguely exists in true crime. As I started to tell you, I think that it was loosely based on or inspired by. Can we say inspired? That seems wrong. By this horrendous story. There we go. Because inspired seems like, this was so great. I'd love to see it again in a different way. By these,
I heard the Spur Posse story, and I was inspired to write this movie.
I was really moved
where
by
they
those
all
boys.
up and die.
Mm-hmm.
That's inspiration.
Yeah, the Spur Posse out of Lakewood, California.
Yep.
And I can't remember how much I told you, Paul. Maybe I blew the whole thing, and now we're all just repeating information. But they were inexplicably called the Spur Posse because they loved this one particular player on the San Antonio Spurs. Again, they're in California.
David Robinson.
That guy, what a curse. His own curse now. That's right. When we could off camera, we were joking about how his Wikipedia entry should include this, and he's probably just trying to get rid of it. Just every day editing it out, and somebody puts it back in. So the Spur Posse, obsessed with this specific player, was about 20 to 30, 15 to 17-year-old boys, 8 of which were accused of raping or molesting girls as young as 10.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In a gang competition to accumulate points for sexual conquest. Now we all see where this part now
Carrie too often.
Yeah, now we're seeing that's the part that they picked up for the movie, which is sad. Also, just really quick, I want to go through sources as I talk about this. High school gang accused of, this is pretty, there no mincing words here, New York Times. High school gang accused of raping for points. The New York Times, March 1993. Put it out there. I get it. A June 1993 piece.
Drawing inspiration from New York Post, it seems like.
No, it'd be so much worse than the New York
Post. Do you think this is where Chris Hardwick got his idea for At Midnight? Should we cut that out? Points. Anyway, God, that was, I'm so sorry.
God, why did you do that? I'd forgotten everything
cut around
you just
it.
were saying. And
cut
then,
around
okay.
It. Or
no,
keep it
fine.
in.
We'll keep it in.
I got points for that. Shit. Gallows humor is allowed. A June 1993 piece in the LA Times about new charges lodged against a member of the Spur Posse. The Lost Boys, not the movie, sadly, by Susan Faludi. Someone should sue her. No, I'm kidding. And An American Tragedy. One Spur Posse mother struggles to understand, the LA Times. And, that's,
Okay.
I know. Okay. How did my boy become? I don't, ma'am. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't care. So this is just a very crazy story because these boys were arrested on camera. They got a nice little perp walk out of their school. Only one of them was 18 years old. The rest were, so he was the only one who was, treated as an adult, charged as an adult. And according to, and I know I already mentioned this, but these are more information, Lieutenant Joseph R. Sargent. I wish it was Sargent. The group had a point system. In each sexual encounter, the individual scored a point. It didn't matter if the girls consented or not. If they consented, it was a point. If they didn't consent, it was a point. I don't want to critique this. I don't want to say that I don't understand that, but that does seem kind of ridiculous. And tears. Mm-hmm. But the most disgusting part about this, and I promise we won't stay on this for too long, even though I've just written so much about it as if this is the movie and not the movie itself.
I mean, it kind of is.
When they came back to school, they were applauded. There was a lot of when they were released, when most of them, only one person ended up going to some sad little prison camp very briefly. People were applauding them. They had T-shirts made for them. Obviously, people were using the boys will be boys excuse. A lot of the victims were described as promiscuous. Those promiscuous 10-year-olds. A lot of students condemned the boys and some defended them as just being like that. They're just popular and good looking. And that's what you do.
Yep.
That's what you do. Of the 17 sex-related Spur Posse cases presented to the district attorney's office in March and April of 1993, 15 were rejected. Though one teenager pled guilty, was sent to the juvenile camp, as I said, and another faced a single felony charge. But don't worry, they quickly did a nice little media. They did a little media tour. They did the talk show circuit.
Ricky Lake and Sally Jesse.
Yeah, they were everywhere. They appeared on the front page of the New York Times. They were in Newsweek. They were in teen magazines like Sassy, Penthouse.
Wait, that's a teen magazine?
Yep.
Okay.
No.
I remember that.
There were teen magazines like Sassy, Penthouse.
Oh, okay.
And I quote, "It was difficult to switch channels without running into one spur or another, chatting up television personalities. The local paper ran announcements listing their upcoming television appearances under such headlines as Posse Premiere and the Spur Posse on TV. Most of the Spurs interviewed on the talk shows weren't the ones arrested, but it didn't seem to matter as long as they were willing to elaborate on or embellish their sexual exploits. And they were. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I should have done a Where Are They Now, but that would be a great Distractify article. But so I guess that makes more sense as to why this movie began in 1996, a mere 3 years after this, and this was still happening. Like years later, members of this posse were getting picked up for various other reasons, and hard to believe this didn't actually turn out good for all of them. So that's the Spur Posse, and I guess we'll have to seamlessly shift back into Carrie too. I mean, so
well, I mean, like the true criminess of it, we alluded to this earlier too, is that you got the Spur Posse element. And I remember, like, as I was watching this again for the first time in 24 years, I was like, oh, this reminds me of the Spur Posse. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's on purpose. That's a thing.
You knew about that. Paul, I don't remember what you said to me when I brought them up. Had you heard of the Spur Posse before?
Oh, yeah, but I haven't thought about it in years to the degree that it was really barely accessible in my memory.
Wow, John, this is a scathing indictment against what your brain likes to focus on, and we'll talk about that off camera. But anyway,
I just remember it from health class. I told you it was in health class.
You did. That's so crazy.
Yeah, like the health teacher was
we didn't learn about this.
Spur Posse's bad, and you're going to die of AIDS. And
the Alpha and the Omega.
Anyway, enjoy 1995.
I think it came up like once in conversation circa 10 years ago, which is why my memory didn't retain it.
Yeah.
It seems like there would be, and I didn't, beyond this, I can't believe there wasn't like a made for TV. It's too horrific, I guess. It's fun to have a made for TV movie about murder. It's not so fun to have a made for TV movie about rape. Someone, I guess, decided. Somewhere along the way, we decided that rape was much worse than murder, yet we do not want to test those rape kits, obviously. But anyway. So I'm like very shocked that it hasn't been picked up yet there's got to be documentaries somewhere, right? Are we making it right now? Should we?
I don't think there is.
It seems unusual. This feels like the kind of story, but again, I guess it's just too sad.
Well, it's also, okay, so speaking of like the other true crime that sandwiches this, and we alluded to this earlier as well, which is that it's pre-Columbine by a month that this movie came out, right? And of course, like, would not have been released had it been a month later. And I feel like with the Spur Posse, it's one of those stories, along with Columbine, where like it just happens every couple months now, so that like there's no point making a documentary because stories about young men committing rape and getting away with it is just a thing that happens.
But this was teenage boys, a huge group of them with with children, and it was a game. I don't know. It just seems.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the movie, guys. How do we
Idle Hands came out around the same time as the Rage Carrie 2. I think after
Are you talking about Devon Sawa? The Devon Sawa movie?
That film's commercial performance was hurt by Columbine because that film ends with a school massacre.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. God,
did that come out? Wait, so was that out while Columbine happened? It came out before?
I think it came out like right around the same time that Columbine happened.
Yeah. Because they had to postpone the Buffy finale, and
that's right.
That's just them killing a snake. So
that's right.
Although the snake eats some of the students.
Well, that because all the students obviously armed. They were armed, and the entire school was armed with guns, but every weapon imaginable.
It's true.
It opened 10 days after Columbine.
Idle Hands did.
That's
shocking.
Have you done that movie? Because I love that movie.
No, but I think that's interesting because my memory of Columbine, and Paul, I don't know how old you were when Columbine happened, but my memory of Columbine is
17.
Okay, yeah, so you're old enough to have had a visceral memory of it. My memory was that everything just got canceled after that. If it had any sort of connection to school violence or youth being killed in any way, it was all sort of postponed and canceled. But
that was the 9/11 of high school culture.
It was, and then maybe though it took some time for that to sink in, and so the Idle Hands kind of was what do we do? I don't know. That's an interesting.
It's much like Donnie Darko opening.
Right,
in the wake of 9/11.
Didn't Mariah Carey's Glitter also open that day? And it was.
I don't think that ends with a plane crashing though.
It doesn't, but it takes place in New York, famously in New York.
Wait, Glitter was 9/11?
I think it was literally, and wasn't Dana Carvey's? What was that movie? Not the Master of Disguise. Was that a 9/11?
Well, that is the 9/11 of movies. Famously.
I love that movie. So, somebody once said to me, "You could never be a film critic because you just love too many things." And I'm like, I love this movie. I love that movie. I'm like, yeah, that's correct. I'll find something gorgeous.
Not the Rage Carrie 2 for some reason.
I tried.
So is it established? Have you established, Jen, that you hated the Rage Carrie 2? Is it fair to say?
It's okay. I kind of want to. I guess I want to start in the beginning because my memory of it, my problem is not that this young woman gets revenge on a bunch of terrible men. I love that. I will always love that.
That part's great.
I felt like there must be things on a cutting room floor somewhere there, or it's just that badly written, which is also a possibility. But in terms of her romance, at the very least, I did not understand how these two people were saying "I love you" to each other in this heavy-handed Romeo and Juliet-esque ending. I didn't understand it. We saw them together some total of, I don't even know, 2 minutes. They're on a car. They're in the car. They've had a flirtation at the 1 hour photo booth. R.I.P. to those. And then suddenly at the end, and I know we're going to be jumping around, and I think that's okay. She's like, "I love you," and he's like, "I love you," and I'm like, "What?" I don't.
Well, he said it earlier on the video.
Yes, he did. How? Well, of course he did. Please, post-coitus. Don't believe that, ladies, if I may.
She was asleep.
She was asleep. Exactly.
Yeah, easier said. Yeah,
it's different.
So,
why?
And honestly, can I say something really inappropriate that I might ask you to remove from this podcast later?
Yeah,
it's about that.
For it.
It's about the sex scene that we really don't see until later in the movie at that party scene, which is very good.
Yeah.
She's a virgin. And the sex scene that they show, I turned to my boyfriend and I said, "This is not a person who's never had sex. Does everybody remember their first time? I didn't move like that." It's
her telekinetic rage that's taking over and doing the sex.
What? This is adult lady work.
Yeah.
So other than that, what if that was my only problem with this movie? That's not how a virgin has sex. Thumbs down. Yeah, so their relationship just felt, I fully didn't understand where it was coming from. And also, I know she's saying she cannot cry, and she's obviously stuffing her feelings, which is where the powers are going to come out sideways. But she didn't really seem to care that much about her dead friend. That seemed to really pass fairly quickly.
That's true.
Fairly quickly. She's like, ugh. She sees her, and then and we're done.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So I don't know, Paul. Thoughts?
I liked it.
Yes, Paul. Good job, Paul.
I mean, it's rough around the edges, and I found that to be the case with other Katt Shea films I've seen. She sometimes lacks a certain finesse with her actors and technical aspects. But all that said, I found it emotionally engaging. I liked Rachel. I cared about what happened to her. And it's really the only 90s genre film that I can think of that deals with rape culture on high school campuses and bro culture, directed by a woman. And directed by a woman who, as a filmmaker, I think that she always tries to do something thematically interesting with her films, from Strip to Kill to Dance of the Damned to Poison Ivy. None of these are just brain dead genre films. And I feel like it's it's really it's one of the only horror films I've seen that deals with like the Brock Turner of it all. And you have the scene where his father is sitting with the principal, and there's a local politician, and he gets it swept under the rug, and I don't know. It feels progressive in that way, and
well, I know. Look, now I sound like I'm the in-house misogynist, but that's I appreciate all of those things. Maybe it's a little different when you're a gal, and it is a little different when you're a gal. But I think what I said, I can't remember if I said it during our intro or not, John, so forgive me, but I did liken this to, if it had to be a living, breathing thing, it would be all of Woodstock 99 appropriately, because it's picking up right on that weird, angry wave of men that spawned that event and that lineup and this music and this weird, no one knows why they're so angry, but they are so angry.
Yeah.
But
there's real anger. There's real anger in this movie. That's one of the things I liked about it. In the final scene in particular, there are these like shots of the bros that are like Carrie. They reminded me of Vic Berger, where the image sort of quakes and ripples, and it's black and white. And it reminded me of like Fritz Lang's M, the close-ups of like the grotesque faces and the underground layer. And there's just this real distaste toward that character type. So it felt like an authentic work.
Yeah.
I think the biggest flaw with the Rich Carrie 2 is that it is called Carrie 2.
Yeah, yes. I was just about to say, had they separated it, you would not have this preconceived notion, or you wouldn't be attaching. Then wouldn't
we just be like, oh, stupid, this is a bad Carrie ripoff? I mean, like, and would it ever
I don't think so. There's so much modern, like, of the modern time within it, that I don't think, and I would have thought that. I don't know. I mean,
I think it would have I think they would have
filmed it differently. I think they would have made different choices.
I think it would be a bigger budget, better movie to get anyone to notice it if it had not been called Carrie 2. And I think that
I have little doubt that audiences and critics went into it prepared to hate it.
Yeah.
I don't think they were measuring it against the original Carrie. I think they decided that it was a cheap B tier, cash in.
Yeah.
And the film did have some supporters, Amy Tobin of Village Voice being one of them.
Yeah.
I think she had put it on her top 10 for that year, or threatened to.
She said in her review that she'd planned on it. I don't think she actually did.
I said we have to check back in. We got to do a circle back on that list for Amy and see where she landed. Maybe it got knocked off by Idle Hands.
But still.
But my biggest issue watching the film was the way it shoehorns the Carrie clips as flashbacks.
Yeah, because who's seeing those flashbacks? Nobody but Sue Snell.
Amy Irving, which I audibly I audibly gasped. No, I said aloud, give me a fucking break when the first Carrie flashback is dropped.
Yeah.
It feels there are some stylistic choices that feel tacky. The use of black and white feels arbitrary.
I hated that. You don't need to do that for me. I don't need you to hold my hand and tell me when the powers are happening. I know the powers are happening because things are happening, like lockers are opening and closing.
Even used consistently is the issue.
But they didn't stay. It was just like I do want to talk about the relationship. Now, Paul, I hope you don't mind me saying this. I don't mind saying it for myself. You and I both have complicated relationships with our own mothers. No one needs to get into detail, but we both do.
Very unrelatable.
We're the only ones.
Yes.
We're the Highlander of that particular.
We have a listener base of only people with perfect relationships.
Oh, God,
it's a very strange. They keep writing in, being like,
yeah.
So my mom, who I love, was telling me
my perfect mother who never harmed me in any way. So I do think I want to talk about. I wish they had stayed a little bit more. We didn't. What was great about Carrie, and why am I comparing it? Because again, this was retconned into a sequel. Is that we did get to see more of this relationship with her mother, and we got a slightly better understanding of what was going on with her. And then, of course, we got an Adam Sandler song out of some of it, out of They're All Gonna Laugh at You, which is, I think, one of the Carrie's finest legacies, is a shout out on an Adam Sandler album, clearly. But they are all gonna laugh at you, guys. Yeah. So I don't think we fully got. We were dropped into their relationship. J. Smith Cameron from Succession was then immediately carted away, and we were kind of left to wonder kind of what was going on. And then the craziest thing for me was this sudden DNA reveal. And I went, what is that?
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, obviously they weren't going to be discussing genetics and DNA in the original Carrie, but I haven't seen the original Carrie in so long, but did they mention her father at all? Does either of you remember a mention of Carrie White's father in the original?
I don't remember either. And it's been a while, but I was wondering the same thing.
And I was like, this is cuckoo bananas.
Yeah.
I don't think Carrie 2 has any real interest in exploring those relationships. I think they're just sort of tacked on to link
to make it look, but we didn't even need that, which is a shame. Like, she could still, because her powers are connected to her father. She didn't have to also have a mother that was unwell in a different way. It just felt like, why do we need that? We don't need that connection. The connection's with the father.
There's an interesting theme that is brought up there. That this is one of my issues with the movie, is that there's a lot of really interesting stuff that never actually comes to fruition. And one of them is that notion that, like, specifically it's the male gene that is the telekinesis gene, but also it doesn't appear in men. And there's obviously the writer trying to do something with, like, men pass down the trauma to women, but, like, they don't have to deal with it, right? Which I think is, like, a better writer would have made that a far more sort of fleshed out and interesting idea.
It's there just to extrapolate.
Yeah.
Who is this guy spreading his really wonderful STD all around these United States? And once again, may I ask, why am I being saddled with a hero or anti-hero who is resentful of their gift?
Yeah.
Another element I felt wasn't really well developed was the dynamic between Rachel and her step-parents or her foster parents.
Sure. Yeah, who were these people?
It sets up a dynamic that's never really explored. Yeah. And it seems to change. So I think your complaint, Jen, was that Rachel's relationship with is it Jeremy London or Jason London?
I think it's Jason London.
Jason.
It's
Jason,
okay.
yes.
The London.
I felt like the development of that relationship, it felt organic enough, at least in movie shorthand, but it was the step-parent or foster parent relationship that it didn't feel fully fleshed out.
Yeah, we were just supposed to understand that classic trope of she's there so they can collect a check.
I think a lot of it, I mean, I get the sense that one of the kind of approaches that the film is trying to make is that she is the only real character in a world that is populated by tropes. And
except for her friend who passed away, she was a little tropey.
Even her is even she's a trope, right? And even she, like, again, like, Rachel doesn't really mourn her. It's as though, like, she never really existed.
Well, remember, we are told by Rachel herself that she cannot access her emotions. She doesn't cry, and again, the accessing of those emotions is the powers. That's how that happens, in a tattoo. But
I feel like friend is missing a scene or two. She goes from being, like, happy and glowing on the school bus to taking something from her locker and then jumping off the roof. So that felt a bit abrupt. One thing I did like about the movie is the classrooms. None of them have fluorescent lighting. They're all like lit by desk.
Well, half the school is in darkness. Those hallways. Yeah. My person and I kept saying, "Why is this school so dark?" And I'm like, I don't
I
recall
wish my high school had been.
I mean, I think a lot more. I thought a lot more nefarious deeds could have happened in the dark, sadly. But it was weird how dark the hallways. There was some scene where she's talking to someone in the hallway at a locker, and literally the entire hallway behind her, students are moving through it, and it's entirely black. And I went, I was just trying to save some money over there.
Well, and there's also like, speaking of kind of the kind of overt trope nature of it. I mean, there's the scene where like our like big bad jock guy is just like twirling his football during class, and like, does anybody actually do that, or is that just a thing that happens in teen movies inexplicably, right? Like, that doesn't really happen in school. People don't like the football player doesn't like just twirl his football around while the teacher.
I mean, in a school where you can get full on rape covered up, I think you're allowed to twirl your football around again, your
like in the movie trope school.
I'd like to think that was a tongue in cheek sort of touch.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the thing, is that I think the movie is trying to make the whole world that, and like Rachel's the only real character in it. I agree. My fundamental problem with this movie is that it's not well written. It is oddly thoughtful. It is a better movie because of other people who are making it a better movie than what is on the page. But I think the ideas and the sort of presentation of the ideas from the page to the screen just like isn't good enough. It's just not. It's just not there. Like a lot of it was me trying to be like, is this what they were going for here? And if so, like, it's not well baked.
It sometimes feels like an after school special.
Yeah. And like almost by design sometimes though too, right? Like that's the thing is that that's sort of what I'm thinking, is that it's,
well, they got all the hits. They got teen suicide, don't do it.
Yeah.
They've got promiscuity, sexual assault, rape, violence in other forms, traumatic home life,
the stoner, illicit parties, like.
But that's always the question, as to what degree is it intended by the director or accidental. And again, I like to think that Katt Shea is an intelligent enough director that it was intentional. Although I think her problem, again, going back to like Dance of the Damned, is she doesn't always have tight control over the execution and there's a certain crudeness and lack of polish to her work. Maybe Poison Ivy notwithstanding.
They all feel like made for TV movies. Even Poison Ivy, which I love, they feel like these were straight to video, even though Carrie 2 was.
But do you think that's because she has not been given the sort of budget and scope of project that a male director would have gotten?
I think she was a protege of Roger Corman.
Right.
One of a number of female directors that were Roger Corman proteges. Barbara Peterson being another, who did Humanoids from the Deep, which is also heavy on rape, curiously, but not progressive about it the way that Carrie 2 is.
Yeah.
I will say I'm grateful that we didn't actually have to see the only violence we saw was, and now my memory's quickly fading as I'm saying this, was enacted by Rachel herself. We don't actually see any of the rape or assault, unless my brain has already forgotten things.
No.
So on that, I find that to be very satisfying to know that this happened. But the only time we see any sort of violence is this revenge. Now, do I wish that women could be seeking revenge for other reasons just for once in any motion picture? Yes. And I know they're out there, but they're few and far between. I'll spit on your grave, Kill Bill. That's always like, I just got raped or assaulted, or someone tried to kill me and is now raising my baby. Like that. But I do appreciate that all the best kills and all the best violence was at the very end.
The acting scene is so well done. It packs so much punch. And it's, I get the sense that, it is a response to the Spur Posse story and other stories like it. It feels like genuine rage and anger in response to the Brock Turners of the world going on with their lives and leaving, traumatized, destroyed women in their wake.
Being blamed for these actions on top of
from a like a filmmaking perspective as well, though, I will say that like one of the problems with a Carrie movie of any sort is that like by definition the horror is all going to happen at the end, because like right, like when you if the Carrie movie is a type now, then that's it all has to sort of escalate at the end, and that's when the big horror scene is going to be. So there is a little bit of that, like you are kind of if you are looking for a place where you can infuse kind of horror set pieces, like this just doesn't work for that. And that's sort of an issue, I think, but at the same time I do like the way that she puts in these like little moments of sort of horrific and or high tension scenes. I loved the whole like and again, this is the Jen we were talking about off mic at one point, but like there's a Scream reference in this movie, like a direct reference to Scream, and where it's the call with the what's your favorite scary movie and all that sort of thing, and so you get this little like Scream moment that's sort of chilling,
which is
terrifying.
Weird because watching this movie, it feels older than Scream.
I know it really does.
Yeah. So I didn't connect it to a Scream reference, even though I know that Scream came out 3 years earlier, right? 96. But in my mind was like, oh, that's fun.
One movie that came to mind for me watching this was In the Company of Men by Neil LaBute.
Oh, okay.
97, I think, 2 years prior to this. And that feels like even more lived-in exploration of misogyny and the kind of games men play purely for cruelty. And I feel like the material was closer to the writer and director in a bad way, based on things I've heard about Neil LaBute, than with The Rage Carrie 2. So I don't know. There's something to be said for this kind of material being made by men who might have a more intimate understanding of the characters that they're depicting.
Yeah, I would be curious to see the screenwriter is a man, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would be curious to see various drafts of the script, if any, what input Katt had.
Yeah, that's what I really want to know.
As a female director.
Yeah.
Trying to be like, I can just hear somebody saying, oh, that's not what a woman would say. That's not what a woman would do. This is maybe not how a woman would. This is just not what would happen, and trying to like apply that necessary.
I suspect there's a DVD commentary out there somewhere, which I should probably watch at some point.
I'd love to get on that.
I think a lot of that would come to light.
On a slightly lighter note, I do want to talk about the scenes where Sue Snell is visiting J. Smith Cameron in this insane asylum, and I'm calling it that because
Arkham.
It does. Arkham was hilarious. My person goes like Batman. I go yes.
Well,
just like Batman.
Sorta, but actually Lovecraft.
Don't do this to me now, John.
And Maine and Stephen King and etc.
Sure.
Do you know the Arkham sort of trajectory? Like how that?
Do I know the Arkham trajectory?
Yeah. Do you know like where Arkham originates and sort of?
No, that's why I said Batman, and then you corrected me.
So Batman took it from Lovecraft.
Okay.
So Lovecraft. Arkham was, I think, a town in Maine or Massachusetts in Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Batman did Arkham Asylum, it's actually a nod to Lovecraft.
Okay.
The sort of main Arkhamness of it is also a Stephen King thing, because Stephen King is really inspired by Lovecraft.
By the state of Maine. I'm just kidding.
State of Maine and Massachusetts and all that sort of thing. So yeah, the Arkham thing is not just a let's use a Batman reference. Is actually a much sort of deeper lineage of the Arkham name.
Well, that is helpful to know. I mean, what I was struck by the 12 Monkeys-esque feeling of it all, where there's people are just wandering around seemingly without a single nurse or doctor in sight at what
most of what I know about mental institutions is through 12 Monkeys. So is that not right?
Or Girl Interrupted. It just seemed, I was like, everyone's just wandering around.
Every asylum in a 90s movie is that way. Young Poisoner's Handbook, 12 Monkeys, Mirror.
It's crazy, literally. But as someone who is in therapy when needed, I can say crazy. But
I don't know. No, yeah.
But so I just thought to myself, what's happening in this scene? And then the way that she escaped. was wild. And I didn't fully understand it because I saw no evidence to suggest that the only person who would be able to reach Rachel was her mother, who she probably felt deeply abandoned by. Because even though as a child, it doesn't matter what's going on, when a parent leaves you, you feel abandoned, whether it's death, whether it's being dragged out in the middle of the night and thrown into a paramedic. You just feel that. So I was struggling to understand this logic that, who's going to be able to help her with her powers, this woman. I was like, I don't think so.
There's also some zany hijinks music that you hear very briefly.
It was wild. I laughed so hard. I was like, is Mr. Bean coming into this facility? So it was, again, it felt unnecessary. If we took all the stuff out with her mother, it would be fine, because she ended up doing nothing. Nothing came of it. And then Sue got what I like to call the Nancy in part 3 of Nightmare on Elm Street. She got that treatment where you bring a quote unquote, she was not a beloved character from the first movie, but
a legacy character.
And then you just kill him.
Yeah.
Just.
Well, no, but like wait till the end. And not just kill him, like build him up to be something interesting and like redemptive, and then fuck this person.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, she kind of deserved it. Like,
she sucks.
It's cool that she had that like change of heart-ish in the first one, but she also did torture Carrie White through like most of her high school. So Sue Snell.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This should have happened years ago. I do want to ask one weird question. I couldn't help but notice when they went to look at the old school, Sue and Rachel, my first thought was, where did they find a building that does look exactly like a school that was burnt down? And I kept staring at it thinking, this is definitely real, right? That we weren't, I don't know. I was really struck by that. I was like, I don't know who their location scout was, but hats off for finding a school that looked like it might have been destroyed by a teenager 20-something years prior in a pyrokinesis. I don't know
either. I mean, I would imagine there's a combination of like practical effects and CGI going on there.
Not much though.
Not a lot. My biggest question was like, what is this 24-hour veterinary clinic all about? And why does it have like a neon sign outside that says
like it's a bar?
24-hour, like, is that a thing that actually exists in the world?
Because there are 24-hour vet clinics,
but aren't they just covers for like drug dealers? I mean,
if drugs like heart disease medication for dogs.
No,
absolutely.
No,
yeah.
they gotta be like mafia. I think that's where like you hire hitmen. I don't.
I've actually had to take.
Do they have the neon open sign?
No, they don't. But here in Baltimore, my 24-hour vet is someone who has worked with film companies when they've come through Baltimore. So you go into this office and there's pictures of this vet with like, here he is with a young Ben Affleck. Here he is with a young, here he is with Laura Dern. I'm like, oh, did he treat one of the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park? What's happening?
Like when Ben Affleck had heartworm? Like,
I mean, like in any movie that involved an animal of any kind, the vet that owns my dog's veterinary clinic there's a picture with him.
He treated the velociraptor when it got a sprained ankle.
He's the one that got all that poop for her to put her arms in up to her elbows. That was that guy. He was the poop guy from Jurassic Park.
Wow.
Yeah.
The poop dealer.
Yeah. So
celebrity pictures are always a red flag for me when I see them in a business.
Agreed.
I'm like, am I at a dry cleaner? Where am I? Why am I?
Like a doctor's office or a vet clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat your animal really well, just like I treated Ben Affleck's dog. I'm like, wait, what? No, I'm kidding.
Like, if you're a dentist and you have celebrity pictures, that definitely means you gave them drugs.
I've had my hands in all these mouths. Look at all these mouths I've had my hands in.
Yeah, I like my explanation actually makes me feel better than that.
Just letting you know that they're out there 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. See, I wish I had taken better notes. I normally.
Well, I want to. I actually do want to ask about. So I think the strongest part of this movie is the performances. And I think we also have to talk about Zachary Ty Bryan at some point.
How he is a real-life bad boy. Yeah, real-life bad boy.
So hard. Mm-hmm. But, okay, so Emily Bergel, I think, is the reason why this movie really does work. I think she's one of the strongest things about it. And I love this performance. And, like, this is the thing that when I saw it, there's like in '99, there was two things about it that I was like, because I also went into it thinking like, oh, it's going to be trash, and I just want to kind of see a trash movie, and walked out being like, that was so much better than I thought it was going to be or had any right to be. And the two things that really sort of like stuck out to me were sort of the climactic finale, and then also Emily Bergel's performance, which I think is genuinely wonderful, and would love to have seen more of her in motion pictures. But she's had a great career, so I'm not complaining. But what do you guys think?
Oh, I agree completely. I think she's the heart of the movie. And
you mean the heart, like her tattoo, the heart of the movie?
No,
or okay, so like just
she's the emotional core of the movie, and I cared about her character. I cared about her fate. I cared about what happened to her. I cared about how the other characters treated her, and that engaged me throughout. When I saw the running time after the first 10 minutes, I was dreading the remaining 90. But it got easier to watch because of the degree to which I became invested in that character.
Yeah.
And I think Jason London is well cast as well. It's always interesting to me when actors in their mid to late 20s or older playing high school students.
Yeah, well, that was like such a 90s. We're talking about 90s tropes.
Yes.
I mean, Gabriel Carteris being the most egregious example, a 29-year-old woman playing a 16-year-old in Beverly Hills 90210. My God.
Yeah.
Although we should love to see it.
I think the film was overall well cast. I think Zachary Ty Bryan was a very plausible.
Well, Paul, do you? Well, yeah. I think he was method acting. But go ahead, go ahead. Turns out he might have been method acting.
I know nothing about him.
Oh, we will. Well, hold on. I will talk about. I think I was very unfair.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I actually, just to Paul's point, real quick. I agree. He's actually quite good in this movie.
For very good reason. You'll see.
There's more. Yeah. All right.
I enjoyed her as well. I went into this kind of acting like a jerk. I remember what I said to John was, I've seen this movie before. All I remember thinking is the main character, Rachel / Emily. I remember her thinking she had terrible hair, which I know is so shallow and awful. But I just remember being so taken out of some things I couldn't stop staring at her hair. I couldn't stop.
It really is bad. It doesn't.
I was like, what if what's hair? I couldn't stop staring at it. But which I know is.
You're talking about Rachel's hair?
Yeah.
It makes me sound like
I like that she was not traditionally
Yes, that's not my problem.
And I felt, I had the same thought when I watched Mirror Mirror like a month ago.
I love that movie.
I didn't know it was directed by a woman, but midway through, I felt like it occurred to me this might be directed by a woman because of the casting, because it doesn't feel like this film was cast with somebody's dick. Same with Carrie.
No, and I'm not saying like, why doesn't she have shiny hair? I'm here for shiny hair. No. It was they didn't have someone on set who knows how to deal with curly hair, and I could tell. I could tell that there was an inconsistent. This is why people come to this podcast. They come for my takes on the economy, and they're coming for my takes on curly hair care. And again, it sounds very silly to have been taken out of it every once in a while, because I would look and I'd be like, oh, somebody fucked up her hair again today. Come on, you guys. But other than that, yes, she was also a believable, you know how like the weird or the dark girls movies have such a tough time making at least me believe that this person might really be an artist or might really be tortured or might really have something going on inside of them. And I really believed that is it Emily Bergel? I've already forgotten. As Rachel.
Emily Bergel, yeah.
Thank you. Was someone who could actually be this artist, this kind of gothy dark girl. Oftentimes it feels like a caricature. And like, I'll just reference, is it not She's All That? Nope. What's the one with?
Rachel Lee Cook?
Yes. I never believed her as this artist. I never ever believed for 1 second that this person just wanted to sit in her basement and paint all the time. I never found that to be believable at all. But in this movie, I'm like, yes, I can see this girl just wanting to sit around and draw on her sketchbook all the time and listen to dark music.
And I think John's point about all the other characters being like tropes, I think the director is commenting on normies and privilege. And, Rachel kind of lives in a shitty house, whereas the party at the end is in this really big house, and they're all affluent.
Like a different universe. Like,
yes,
100%. Yeah.
So I think there's like a comment on privilege as well as
it's
gender.
Also, my person actually pointed this out, and there's the scene in the classroom. Another thing I often can't stand in these teen movies is I know that you can go to a big high school and not know somebody, but it did feel like suddenly Rachel and what was this character's name? Jason London's character. Who cares? As if they'd never seen each other, as if they've had this class together and they are just meeting for the first time. But they sort of connect or have their first moment while discussing Romeo and Juliet. And then the movie does become a version of Romeo and Juliet, which is fine. We were doing that. We did 10 Things I Hate About You. We were doing that.
That's
my
what person
I mean, pointed that out.
Of tropes, though, like that it's almost again, and it needs a better writer to really make this obvious. But that I think it's signaling those tropes so much, as if to say everything about this movie is artificial except for her, right? And like that's how you should understand the world that she's kind of inhabiting here, and even down to like
goth as well.
What did you say?
I like that she's kind of goth.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, but not like all in goth, just like one of those, you know, like a goth dilettante.
Incidentally goth.
Yeah.
Goth by proxy.
By the way, Jen, I think the person you want to put on blast is named Susie Mazzarisi Allison.
Is this
she's
the hair?
Only person in the hair department that I have on IMDb here. So
Susie, I don't know.
She's listed as assistant hairstylist, but there's no one listed as chief hairstylist.
Because that person quit because she couldn't.
And also Susie has an actual picture on her IMDb page, so you know.
Does she have curly hair?
She's done. Nope.
Didn't think so.
Nope.
Didn't think so. I don't know if I mean, I want to talk about the end, not because I think we're coming to an end, but because I find this ending. I mean, again, I'm focused on the wrong things. I'm focused on like what freshman in college has this incredible dorm room that Jason Jeremy London is given, and he's allowed to have a dog in it. And I couldn't. The second we got to his dorm room, I went, "Where is this?" There's this. Yeah. I was so. Come on, guys! But
wait, is it? Does he go to King University or is it King College?
I don't know. I think it's
one of them is named after Stephen King, right? So like it's either the college he goes to or the high school they're at. I can't remember which one it is, but
I think it's the college because it's like Kingman or King College or something.
Yeah.
Biggest that dorm room is bigger than my own bedroom.
Well, so Stephen King paid for it, so this guy's got money.
Yeah. So.
Let's talk about Zachary Ty Bryan then real quick.
Ooh,
because, again, this is a very strange, prophetic casting.
At this point, where were we in Home Improvement? Because this is obviously older Zachary Ty Bryan. He's not a kid anymore. So this was, we were either nearing the end of the show or the show had just ended. But
I think it was over. I think it ended in the late 90s, but hold on. It ended in 99. So
this might have been his first
as its
project
as it's ending,
and he can't even get top billing. He just was on a successful sitcom for what did it run for? 6-7 seasons.
He was a bit part. He had a like a walk-on part in an episode of Buffy in like season 6.
I remember, and he played a douchebag then as well. He's got resting douchebag face.
He is a douchebag. He is a rapey douchebag in Buffy as well.
Yep. Go ahead. Drop it. So drop that. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Paul, if you don't know, let's talk some true crime. That's your jam. Let's see. In October 2020, he was held on several charges, including felony strangulation, misdemeanor charges, and 4th-degree assault, and interfering with making a police report after an apparent argument with his girlfriend in their apartment in Lane County, Oregon. In February 2021, Bryan pleaded guilty to 2 of the charges, while 6 others were dismissed. He was sentenced to 3 years of bench probation in order to partake in a batterer intervention program and to have no contact with the victim. And then in June 2023, The Hollywood Reporter revealed that Bryan was accused of running a fraudulent agriculture technology startup scheme. 4 sources told the publication that the scheme involved them giving Bryan individual payment amounts ranging from $5,000 to $25,000 in exchange for fake contracts, which actually had no value. The amount of money Bryan earned from the scheme is said to have totaled close to $50,000. On July 28th, 2023, Bryan was arrested for domestic assault again in Eugene, Oregon, and was just arrested once again last week, I think.
Wow, not a good year. A good year
Years.
for him.
Not a
It is
good
not a
years.
big year. But what he does in between is goes on Fox News and talks about the problem of like wokeness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Didn't
things
the Tim Allen's wife on that show also
Patricia something Richardson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't she also like a Fox News
Oh
occasional guest?
no! You're thinking of the mom from The Middle.
Everybody. No, it's not everybody. That's
Oh
Malcolm
yeah.
in the Middle mom.
That no, Everybody Loves Raymond.
Everybody's
You're
Love
right.
Raymond mom.
What's her
Yeah.
name? Yeah, no,
I didn't watch
Patricia
it.
Heaton. Patricia
Heaton.
Heaton.
Yes, Patricia Heaton. Thank you.
Patricia
Yeah,
Heaton.
she's also
Yeah,
a devout.
I confuse her or conflate her with.
They all
Patricia
look the
Richardson.
same. They all have the same haircut.
Patricia Richardson is actually pretty awesome.
Okay,
I love her.
my apologies to Patricia.
No,
Richardson.
Yes,
okay.
and then and what I said to John, and I don't have like the information in front of me, so maybe I'm making this up. But Tim Allen officially distanced himself from Zachary. In light of all
when
this.
you've lost Tim
the
Allen.
guy who went to prison for drugs is like, this is a bridge too far for me.
Yeah.
This guy, hard to believe.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I guess my question is,
what is Jonathan Taylor Thomas up to?
what's JTT up? Just living a quiet life. That's my question.
How's Mark? Has Mark sorted things out? Because
he's
Mark was kind of a fucking mess.
Yeah. And
JTT.
another fake goth. But
it's almost shocking that there's no Jonathan Taylor Thomas podcast. Like he just seems like
there
perfect.
Are all these. Nobody wants to do a home improvement rewatch with JTT.
I don't think anybody wants to do that. But
Well, what I'm always confused about, and I never quite understand, is this home improvement. And I know that he wasn't like a main character, but I have to imagine he made some money, and it was of the time when you were making money off of
that
a
show
sitcom.
was fucking huge.
You should still. I'm sure it's running somewhere. You should still be getting residual checks because they had those deals then.
We should do something with Haley Joel Osment.
Oh, he's good. Haley Joel Osment's a good, funny person now, and he does stuff. Yeah. He's great, right?
Yes.
I'm so out of the loop.
Haley Joel, did you not? Sorry to bring true crime up again. I hate to do this to you. Did you not see Extremely Evil, Shockingly Evil?
No.
Shockingly Evil and Vile. He has a part in that as well. But he's actually done. He's very funny. He's done a lot of funny stuff. Haley Joel Osment is like,
he's great.
He seems well adjusted.
He did. Yes. He came out of his childhood acting time. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the it's maybe a slightly safer landscape for child actors now in the 21st century. If there's anything in the industry that's improved, maybe it's
I hope so. Unless you worked on a Nickelodeon show with what's his face, the guy from Head of the Class.
Well, speaking of also then this movie, there's also something very interesting to say about like Mina Suvari and Hollywood and sexualization of young people, and like the fact that this movie and American Beauty happened in the same year. And,
that's crazy.
And sort of like what happened. This movie, American Beauty, American Pie, right? That's the Mina Suvari trilogy right here.
Did
and
American Beauty come out after this? Was this one of those things where
American Beauty was an Oscar bait at the end of the year?
Right. So it wasn't one of those things where, you like film a movie and then oopsie, it comes out because they see that you've got Oscar buzz. Okay.
No, but they did release another movie that she was in called American Something Else that was actually filmed a couple of years earlier.
They do like
because
they
they're
do
sort
that.
of they're running the Mina Suvari bandwagon in 2000. So there was actually 3 movies that came out in 99 starring Mina Suvari that had American as the first word, which is just bizarre. But there's something about sort of her story and the way that she was sort of overly sexualized and badly mistreated on sets on various movies around this time. And sort of the way that I think this movie and then American Beauty form kind of bookends of like that story is, I mean, someone who's good at writing about movies should write an article or a story, a paper about
Paul,
that.
that's you. That's not me.
I think that's
you.
There's some stuff to mine there.
Yeah, I do think that for her only scene, she was strangely charming. Not strangely, she was in the brief moments we spent with Mina Suvari in this film, she was very charming, and I can see why
I loved her.
Was cast in all the other films she was cast in. She was just this adorably engaging person. I do think that I don't like this idea that the only reason why she killed herself is because it kind of makes a decision like that. And maybe maybe that does happen often, but I do think it's a little dangerous to suggest that this single action could be the driving force behind that. But maybe that does happen. But I don't think it was
I don't think
1990.
we learned enough about her character
We
for
don't.
that to be
That's the
plausible.
thing. We don't. And at one point, when Rachel says she was so happy that day, I said to myself, well, when you decide to kill yourself, that's usually people are described as being quite happy on that day. Most of the time, people have this unrealistic idea of what suicide is like. And most of the time when someone makes that decision, they are generally happy on that day.
I actually really appreciated that, because she doesn't fall into the typical like suicide trope, right, of the depressed high schooler. And you kind of get the sense in that one scene on the bus that the two of them are sort of like the outcasts, kind of losery.
Their thing
girls.
was really cute. Now, did I need Rachel to walk up to this body and wipe her dead friend's blood on? I didn't need any of that.
No.
I certainly didn't need any of that. But again, I know what I did really like that there was, in terms of the writing, and who knows, the part where Rachel is trying to explain to Jeremy Jason London what it's like to no longer see her friend, to see the back of someone. She goes, I used to see her, I think it's in the coffee shop right after they bring the dog to the vet. She was like, I used to see her, I used to think I saw her, and then she would turn around, it wouldn't be her, but then sometimes it would be her, but now it will never be her. And I was like, that is a way.
That happens before she jumps off the roof.
Yes, I know that we see this scene, but the way that she's describing the way that she's going to miss her friend is this very specific example that we were privy to. But in general, when thinking about losing someone, you do think of these little strange ways. The big ways come later. And I kind of liked that conversation, that little snippet of conversation where you're like, it sounds strange, but if, this is a small thing that I realize is no longer going to be happening in my life because my friend is dead.
See, there are a lot of lovely little things in Carrie too. The more you think about,
maybe I like this movie, guys. I think I don't know what happened to me. Why I was like, I think I was reacting to the 1999-ness of it all. And again,
it's so fucking like some of the pants in this movie are just unforgivable. Like there's a lot of 1999 happening in this movie. I mean, again, it is the most 99 movie ever made, and that's sort of part of what's charming about it. It has a lot of flaws. There's a lot of things that like do not go right here. The fact that Katt Shea was replaced and then she had like 2 weeks to prepare and like make a new movie. I mean, it shows, right? Like there's obviously, this could have been something really cool and great and interesting. What we got is better than I think any of the ingredients suggest it should be. And it's actually, it's a worthwhile movie. Like it really is. There's things about it that are good enough that it's worth people seeing.
I think the 1999-ness of it, and this applies to like, Urban Legend, which I think was 1998.
Oh, with the Noxzema girl, with Gayheart.
A lot of those films from the late 90s that whose gauche style I think would have been unforgivable then. The more time that passes, the more excusable it is, I feel like, because it feels vintage.
Yeah.
In a way that didn't at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, vintage and also nostalgic, because I do recall the very first scene when we get to the high school. There's definitely some hacky sack. You gotta have some hacky sack in this. And looking at the way these kids were dressed, this was a year after I graduated from high school. I graduated in 98, and my person is younger than me. And I said, "Look, it's my high school experience," as if it was a snapshot from the 50s, which at this point it feels like. But it is wild to see. I rarely do I get to see my youth reflected back at me in a way that it was realistic. And obviously it was made at the time, so it's going to be realistic. But I was like, that does look like my high school. That looks like my high school.
When classrooms had 16 millimeter projectors, which is something I totally
Yep. I thought of that. When I thought of you, I thought that I was like, give me an overhead projector and we'll be in business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wheel in a horrible TV with a VCR and show me the Neverending Story in Spanish, and we're in business.
So from a horror perspective, let's talk about the climactic scene.
Okay.
I think this whole sequence is like so effective, so well choreographed.
They used every inch of that house. And God bless them
and
for
you
it.
feel the like ungodly revenge happening, and it is just it's gross and fucked up and like incredibly satisfying, and I love it.
I always loved CDs as a weapon. Like,
yes.
they come in peace.
Yep. Yep. That house was crazy. I have to assume that was a set. Do we know? I mean, I know they destroyed it, so it's like, yes, of course. But that didn't seem like all the screens in that house were insane.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think
and the
house
was a
itself
little
is
dated
real.
even for the time.
yeah.
Reminded me
like,
of the house from Amityville. It's About Time.
It felt like the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
That glass, I'm obsessed with those cubed glass. I'm obsessed with them. Anytime I see that, I get excited in a house.
What do you think is the best, aside from the CD death, which is obviously an all-timer? What do you think is the best, the most effective?
It's probably Sue's death.
Yeah.
You got that's a twofer.
Yeah.
You get a twofer.
That's a twofer.
Through the peephole, like Dario Argento's opera.
Mm-hmm. The pool thing, I don't know. I feel like that.
Well, the Rachel Blanchard death though is like that's fucking awesome.
Would that have killed her?
So fucking gross. Like I don't know. Who cares?
I don't know.
Maybe she like also blows her brain up. I don't fucking know. But
yeah.
Oof. Blowing at her eyes like that. Holy
Mhm.
shit. Yeah. That got me. But man, and also when she how does she shoot? No, she like spears Zachary Ty Bryan in the balls, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those three at the
His
end.
genitals right into the pool.
Yep.
Yeah, right behind him. I said, "Ooh, there
Yeah.
goes balls."
Yep. Yep.
It's pretty rough in contrast with everything that leads up to it. I don't think there's anything that graphic in the film until the climactic 20 minutes.
But that's the rage.
Yeah,
it's the rage happening.
Until the rage. Yeah.
Yeah. Went from anger to rage, and yeah. Do all the Carries have to die at the end? Is it a Carrie rule?
That's the worst part.
Too soon to tell, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I guess depending on where her father is, that's it. I don't know. He could be out making all sorts of little Carries all across these United States. We don't know.
I wanted them to live and just kind of run off together, and
so did I.
Let her get away with it.
I feel like we'll never know because this flopped. So there will likely be a Carrie reboot, but
there
no
was
direction.
A Carrie
there already
reboot.
Was.
Yeah. There you go.
Was it Abigail? Not Abigail Breslin. The other one.
The other one.
They always look alike. They look so much alike. It's not Abigail Breslin. It's the one who was in Let the Right One In, right?
Yeah.
The American version.
Yep. It's and Kick Ass.
God damn, what is her name?
Chloe Grace Moretz.
Chloe Grace Moretz. Yeah, I always get them both confused, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
I love her, but I haven't seen the remake.
I think I watched it, and it's fine.
Julianne Moore's
let me in.
I mean, come on.
No. I actually read that the other Carrie, the Carrie reboot, which we don't need because the original was just fine. Everybody, stop rebooting.
Well,
good movies.
It does meet my low bar qualification for movies of having Judy Greer in it, so you know.
Yeah. Well. the Judy Greer cinematic universe.
Yes.
So yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah. This is an interesting.
That's
one.
it. That's the Rage Carrie 2 or Carrie 2 the Rage or Rage Against the Carrie machine.
Yeah. Go see this movie if you haven't already. I think that's my recommendation.
Yeah.
I think you should see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it.
It's streaming on too many platforms. Where did you find it, Jen?
I think I watched it on HBO Max.
It is on HBO Max for free.
Is
if you
it?
have HBO Max?
Okay.
Yeah.
I rented it from Voodoo, which is probably the least used.
No, I love Voodoo. Is where I will go when I've exhausted every resource. Voodoo usually will.
I used to really like Voodoo because you could watch a 2-minute preview of any title.
Yeah.
So if it was a shitty transfer, you'd know before buying a rental. Whereas now there's just no way to know what the transfer looks like until you've already rented.
Oh, that's how they get you. They were like, I think we're losing money. How? And they're like, well, we're letting everyone know how shitty it's going to be, so we got to
There
start.
are tons of movies advertised as HD that are literal like VHS transfers. Amazon, especially, guilty of this.
They don't care. They don't fucking care. John, isn't there's a question that you ask the guests?
I do. Well, because Paul's a first-time guest, so we get to ask him this question. So, Paul, what is your favorite movie from the year 1999?
Topsy-Turvy.
Whoa! You said that so quick. You said that as quick as I said Jawbreakers.
American movie is a close second.
Oh, yes. I like all of these. These are all great answers.
Okay.
Tell me Topsy-Turvy, why?
It's probably the best period piece I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best film about entertainment and building something, creating something from conception to the premiere. It's so colorful, and it really feels, you watch a period piece hoping to travel in time to whatever period's being depicted on screen. And oftentimes you feel like you're watching like a costume show, and Topsy-Turvy feels so alive in every corner of the frame. And I love Mike Leigh as a filmmaker. I love his process. I love how he develops his screenplays. Each film is developed collaboratively in a series of improv sessions. So the screenplays are built with the cast. And most of his films have been about the British working class set in like contemporary London. And Topsy-Turvy at the time was a departure from everything he'd done prior.
Yeah.
But it still feels very much like a Mike Leigh film because you feel you're there. I love it so much. When I bought it on Blu-ray like 4 or 5 years ago, I popped it in my Blu-ray player at midnight just to look at the transfer. And I ended up watching the whole thing, and I was stoned.
3 in the morning. Yeah.
It's not the sort of film that typically you'd watch stoned, but I could not stop watching
it. From midnight to 3 a.m., no less. It is.
It is a long movie.
It is not a fast-paced sort of in-your-face kind of movie. So
no, it's not for everybody. But it actually turned me on to Gilbert and Sullivan.
Oh,
so I was going to ask that if you were a Gilbert and Sullivan fan before or after, but
I saw Topsy-Turvy in 1999 when it came out. So I was 18, but it just seeing the Gilbert and Sullivan comic operas recreated in their flamboyance and their colorfulness, it really brought life or breathed life into the music in a way that maybe it wouldn't have appealed to me had I not watched that.
Well, we covered that movie a few episodes ago, and I love it as well. So it's great when they have that in their back pocket, Jen, where it's just like, here's the answer to the question you just asked. Here's a harder question than Paul. And again, this is not something that you have to have a real answer for, but just the one that you bust out at parties. What's your favorite movie of all time?
I know.
For a long time, it was for decades. It was the Wim Wenders film Until the End of the World.
Oh, I love that movie. That's a great movie.
Yeah,
great soundtrack.
I think I've sort of like, I've divorced that film. At the time I saw it in the 90s, it meant a lot to me. It represented sort of like the antithesis of my life at the time. I feel like I've grown beyond it. It feels more dated. The technology, the aesthetic of it, but I still love the soundtrack. The soundtrack is like my favorite, one of my favorite albums of all time. Like now, I would say like After Hours is probably that, or Bad Boy Bubby from Australia.
Okay, so in the height of the pandemic, Paul and I had like a brief but glorious movie watching club.
Okay.
And he showed me Bad Boy Bubby, and I did love it. There's an upsetting cat scene, which I'm one of those. I'm one of those. But other than that, I very much enjoyed Bad Boy Bubby. It is truly not for everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of upsetting stuff in that film.
Yes, but like in general,
it's why it took 5 years to get distribution in the US. And
I cried.
Audiences at film festivals were mixed in their responses to it. The cat scene in particular spurred a lot of walkouts.
It looks very realistic, and I'm worried that it might have been.
It's a real dead cat that they use.
Right, but we don't.
They didn't kill the cat.
Yeah, they don't. Right,
It's pre-killed.
Yeah,
it is pre-killed. Yeah,
pre-dead.
I got it from like a shelter or something.
But yeah, but I did cry. It made me cry. It's a strangely lovely film, I thought.
Well, good answers. Thanks, Paul. And thanks for joining us.
Great answers.
Is there anything that you want people to know about you, or like how to find you, or how to find your work, or what are you working on? What's going on in your
I'm writing for podcasts these days? I have a project that I've been trying to sell with a friend. And other than that, I like to remain enigmatic. I'm on Instagram at the Paul of Haynes.
Yes, for a while I was on private, but now I'm all public. I'm out there. I took myself off private because I'm employed.
In Twitter's dying days, you've put yourself.
Sure did. I was trying to hide from some people, but I'm not hiding from them anymore.
Well, you can find the show at 1999 the podcast on the Twitter or the X or whatever, and you can email us at 1999@cageclub.me. Paul, thanks so much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
It was fun to hang out.
Jen.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah. Oh, you know what? Here we go. This next motion picture is really going to make you lose your head.
That was
Heads will roll.
Heads will roll. See if you can figure that one out, kids. And look out for frogs. And we'll see you